Fox NFL kickoff, a Super Bowl champ, one of the smartest guys offensively the league's had, and just a wealth of information. Sean Payton is joining us in studio on Halloween. Now, being a New Orleans person, that's a big Halloween city.
It's the tradition there, and you got Mardi Gras, right? But that's the second biggest thing. And when they have a home game like they did yesterday, like you could only get half of it with the cameras panned in the audience. They're looking for a reason to celebrate. And look, fortunately for them, they won a game yesterday too. And so I'm sure that there were a lot of people enjoying the French Quarter after.
Yeah, I when you buy cigarettes, it says on the side,
Warning.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is smart. When you sign for $50 million, you know the caveat emptor. It's going to be hard. You can't afford people. So when people say it's not Aaron's fault what's happening, I say, well, he demanded Randall Cobb, he took the money, and he didn't work out in the offseason with the young kids. I'm not blaming him, but he knew the reality, did he not?
Yeah, it's a little bit like your budget at home, and if the old man decides he wants all the channels and you get the whole TV bundle, but you got to keep the temperature at 72 degrees, and it gets a little warm, and it's not pleasant. Look, we were talking before we came on here. Historically in our league, it's been hard for a team once that quarterback has signed a mega deal to enjoy the same success or win a Super Bowl. It's happened, when Tom was in New England, although his number was a little reduced. Everyone knew that.
Yes, absolutely it was.
And he knew it, and he talked about it. So when a chunk of the pie, that big a chunk, goes to one player, I think the pressure falls then on, obviously, the front office and the rest of the players on the team, and are other players willing to, I thought at the beginning of the year, the biggest transaction that surprised me was not Aaron signing, but when all of a sudden they lost Devontae to the Raiders. I just assumed that would get done because, Aaron's returning. These two were quite arguably one of the better quarterback-receiver combinations in the last 20 years, really.
Right.
And so when that happened, I just thought, wow, I didn't anticipate that. I didn't see that.
Right. I said with Buffalo, they're obviously great, but the margins in this league are tight. And last night's a great example. It's 24/7. Packers have a makeshift O-line. They're on the road. Buffalo's healthier, got much better personnel. In the last 2 hours, I'm like, Green Bay's making them fight for every yard. And sometimes you get seduced by talent. Josh Allen is so good. You saw this with Ben sometimes, that you want to let him be Josh Allen. But Josh makes mistakes. He did in college. It's who he is. It's the greatness of the artist. He spills some paint. And I look at Buffalo. Should I be concerned watching them and thinking, boy, they leave a lot on the floor?
Yeah, quite honestly, I'd like him to spill some paint for my team anyway. I'd be comfortable with that. I do think this, though. We say this in our league a lot. Sometimes it's not who you play, it's when you play them. And I know Green Bay didn't win that game, but boy, did they have like a finger right in the middle of their chest all week.
Yep.
And you have to always respect the professional athlete on either side of the ball.
That's right.
And we saw that a little bit from Green Bay. You came away like, man, there was some fight there. And I mean, man, the early catch for a touchdown by
Romeo Dobbs.
It was unbelievable. And so you kind of anticipated when someone gets pushed back into the corner that they're going to come out fighting. And so, look, the greatest thing for Sean McDermott is to, get a win like that, a big win, another win, right? We'll forget about this one in 3 weeks. It'll just be a win.
Right.
And then, man, coach hard off of it.
That's right. You always say that.
Man, there's nothing better than a win with
little issues.
With issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, every coach probably at some point, every talk show host has a formula. Pete's formula, the rumor on Pete Carroll's always been, I mean, I know guys who have played with him, so it's not a rumor. Great with young players. Storytelling Pete. He builds a culture. I don't look at him as a schematic genius like maybe a Belichick defensively or you or Andy offensively. But he's a culture setter. He's a relentless energy guy, and young guys who are less cynical, aren't compensated yet, totally buy in. Did it at U. That's why he was so great at college.
Yeah.
And I watched this Seahawks team, and Sean, they look a lot like that one 4 years ago, where they have a chip on the shoulder quarterback, a star back. They are fast, young, and long athletic. I don't know what their ceiling is. What do you make of them?
Well, look, I hope any of us that coach, or in my case, if I were to return and coach, that I can have as much fun as he's having right now. Sometimes why does it anger you sometimes? Like, you just look at him and you're like, he can't have that much fun. You're coaching. You're supposed to be stressed out right now. He's chewing his gum. He's smiling. That's been his formula, and it's worked for him.
When you faced him, what did you think? When you faced a peak team?
We knew we were going to get a very disciplined, well-coached team. And it started with their defense, of course, but Pete will be patient with the running game, whether he won 10-7 or 37-30. You knew you were getting a well-coached team. I think his energy at his age and the challenge where the franchise quarterback left the building, you're playing, there's a little bit of that house money,
sure.
and he relished that challenge, I think. And I think, conversely, you see the locker room the same way, with a chip on their shoulders, as you said, and you see that they're having fun. I kind of felt I saw that win for them yesterday versus New York. I didn't see the Jet game going maybe as easily to New England as it did.
Yeah.
But I felt like Seattle would play well in that spot. Gino's been amazing, though, and I that's when you looked at his career, and they even showed the teams he was on, and
you thought his career was over.
Well, you forgot where he was at.
It's true. So sometimes all of us in life, we have a belief, and then something happens, and it confirms our belief. So I didn't love Zach Wilson out of college. I said, he's got too much Johnny Manziel hero ball, pretty arm, but you're stepping up in class. I don't think you can get away with this stuff. Like people, there are comps in this league. And I thought, man, there's a lot of, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. And I'm like, a little Drew Lock to me. And I'm like, no, that's not the way the league works. That's BYU, Mountain West, or whatever. Independent can do that. So now I watch him. And here's my question. He's been hurt a couple times. When do you, as a coach and a staff, once you get, how many games in with a young quarterback, do you sit down collectively and go, we have to consider maybe looking at that position again?
Look, it's a great question. I would say this: we're always evaluating, right? Weekly, we're grading the tape, we're grading the players. Okay. Generally speaking, at that position, you have, well, let me say this, generally speaking, with every position, you have that first impression.
Right.
In other words, you've drafted the player.
Yeah.
He's come to the building. You've had your first rookie minicamp. And I can still recall great first impression. Like the best first impression after we drafted a player when I was at New York with the Giants was Jeremy Shockey's first 3 days.
Oh.
It was like better than we could have ever.
Really?
It was immediate. And then conversely, you've been a part of maybe early round picks that took time. And
Really?
So when they arrived, it was like, all right, give them time. It's going to work out.
Give me one of those that literally.
Well, a lot of times it comes with a receiver position. They don't pick up things right away. It takes a little bit. It takes a little bit of time. Robert Meacham became a very good player for us on a Super Bowl team. But in year one, there was a big transition relative to what he had done at Tennessee, coming to the Saints. So back to your question regarding Zach. I think, look, they've got a feel right now. They've got enough in their tank from an evaluation standpoint, the Jets do, to at least know kind of who they have. Then it's like, all right, what are the things that we feel like he does well? The challenge in our league oftentimes is, boy, when you get one of those high selected players, it's hard organizationally to say, hey,
we missed.
Well, and I found it interesting yesterday that I'm jumping ship here to the Cowboy game, and the minute that Jerry was talking to the media, and man, it was a great win for them, right?
Yeah.
And right away it went back to Zeke. And
it did.
But why is that?
Because he paid
Because
him.
he was selected before we even sat down.
Right.
And because he got paid. And so I get all that. But the moment at that time wasn't about Zeke. It was about another player who looked really good, by the way.
Yes,
and,
really
and
good.
every once in a while, we play an opponent, and we said, don't hurt the starter because we don't want to see the two. But I think in the Jets' case, I think we're still going to see, look, as the talent around him improves, hopefully, and I'm sure they think this way, hopefully we see the more consistent and improved play by him. And look, it's always a tough spot when you go to play a Belichick coach team. The week prior, we saw Fields completely unravel a new offense, though. That was the first we saw a package from Chicago that really suited Fields.
Yes.
Like all of us looked and said, what are we watching?
Yes.
And, they had studied Ravens film. To their credit, Matt and their staff, they had a little midstream adjust and said, hey, what can we do effectively to win games? I think I'm sure the Jets will be looking at it the same way. I didn't have a chance to see that game. So
but you can see their self-identity is defense and run game. They lose Brees, their best lineman. Now they need Zach to make plays, and I don't think he's quite capable. I want to shift into the Cowboys.
The loss of the runner.
It's huge.
Yeah, that's a big loss.
It's amazing how good a quarterback gets throwing on 2nd and 4 and 3rd and 1.
Yeah, I want those. And it's amazing how good a play caller you become. Because on those down and distances in your earpiece, you're on a line with maybe 6 other coaches, 3 on the sidelines or on that line, offensive coaches, 3 in the press box, and everyone has an idea on 2nd and 4. But when it's 3rd and 14, it's like crickets. You don't hear a thing.
Not a thing.
Yeah.
Nobody's got a suggestion.
You don't hear a breath.
Okay, so tell me this. So I think it's pretty obvious that Tony Pollard, Zeke's deal's up, right? So Tony Pollard's the guy. Tell me what it's like. I think this is always one of these things that we don't talk about in the media, but is a real dance for coaches, is that Tony Pollard has the juice. It's very obvious. And Zeke's been paid, but he is a leader in that locker room, reportedly. The players really like Zeke. Tony Pollard's the better player. He's the home run hitter. What's the dance like as a coach to make that work?
Yeah, my experience would say the less dancing, the better, and the more open dialogue, and this is what we see. Now we in New Orleans when I coached there believed in depth at running back and having. I could go back in year 1. It was Deuce and Reggie. At some point, Darren Sproles came on board. People wouldn't know Mike Bell was our Super Bowl winning team, running primary back with Pierre Thomas and Reggie Bush. So we've had 2 or 3. What's the vision? I think the number one question that has to be answered always in the offseason, not with just the new players coming in, but with your current roster, what's the vision going to next year? What's our vision? What's our vision for Pollard? What's our vision for Zeke? And if the vision fits where the money's at and where you are as a team, and it's crystal clear, then great. If the vision's blurry, then you run into a little. I think you regret things.
What do you make of Dallas? It looks like they kind of know what they are. Like they lean into defense. For the record, Dan Quinn does a heck of a job.
He does a great job. I like him. There's 2 teams that, and I'm not talking about Philadelphia, right? They continue to win in defining ways. Minnesota, I had a chance to listen briefly to the end of that segment, but I can't help but coming away, and I felt this way even before yesterday because we have a tendency to move a little bit here, but San Francisco and Dallas, to me, are those next 2 teams that
playmakers.
Yeah, and man, there's nothing like a good defense and what it can do for your team when you get into certain games. And I know the weather gets colder, but it just travels well. And there's a saying, it travels well, and it's true. And so for me, I think Dallas is a team that has a chance to.
Well, was your Super Bowl your best defense?
It was one of our better defenses. It was our number one defense in takeaways. I think we had 37 or 30. We had a high. We took the ball away at a very high rate.
And that's what Dallas does.
It's what Dallas does. It's what Dallas did a year ago. So when you could take the ball away like that, Philadelphia's taking the ball away at a high rate right now. That can cover a lot of other issues that you might have as a team. You can play an average game and take the ball away, 2-1 or 3-0 in that margin and win by more than 20 points. But I do feel like watching the 49ers and watching the Cowboys, if I was looking at rounding out the NFC, and honestly, by the time we get to when the NFC plays the AFC in that Super Bowl, I think we'll have a team that can compete possibly with the AFC champion.
Well, it's interesting. I thought McCaffrey would work. I would have made the deal. I think you have to live in the moment with Garoppolo's health. You don't know. There are certain, I think San Francisco's old left tackle Trent Williams, Garoppolo, health. This team, this collection, this is a Super Bowl team. Let's go for it. Let's live in the moment. That was my takeaway on it.
Yeah, and they didn't, my understanding is, look, when you bundled the picks that were used to acquire McCaffrey, they equated to a late first-round pick. And so, I mean, that, now when you announce it as a 2 here, a 2 here, we begin to look at that like a huge package. But I think it amounted to numerically on the like our value charts as a late one.
What's it like to face McCaffrey?
Well, he does so many things well. So I'm sitting on the set yesterday and watching that game live. He throws a touchdown pass off the toss sweep, and I'm like, holy cow, right-handed. I said, he's done it all now. I said, has he ever thrown a touchdown pass in the NFL? And so right away, everyone within 8 minutes, they come back with the only time he's thrown a touchdown pass was 4th and 1 against you at the 50-yard line. And I remembered it like it was like a flashback, but it was a short yardage 4th, and we're going to win this game. We had the better team.
Yeah.
So it was one of those games where they played kind of like risk-free. Let's go. Handed it off to him, and it was a pulling guard, and then he jumped up in the air like Tebow and threw the ball to the tight end, who just was completely wide open for a touchdown. He does a lot of things well. Here's why I like the move more than anything. For the player, McCaffrey, and for the team. He doesn't have to take 60 snaps a game there. And I think one of the challenges with a player like Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, or any of these, they want the ball. But I think keeping them healthy for the long haul is important. And I think he has a chance to do that when he's in San Francisco.
No, he said that he doesn't feel like he's not a volume player for them. He is a chess piece for a really smart offensive coach.
And he comes in, and you just listen to him post-game. He's got tremendous football makeup, right? I mean, he's the son of a player. His brothers play. And he's unselfish, and he can catch the ball extremely well. The catch he made in the end zone was
oh, my God, it was unbelievable.
It was pretty good, right? He's a very good route runner, so you can put him out and empty, and you can get some matchups. And he's a good running back. When those guys, we've said this on this show a number of times. Schematically, those guys do as good a job as most in our league at running the football. And then when you give a good runner a good scheme with good personnel, that usually, I mean, when the tight end and the fullback are both healthy, they hit your edges better than anyone.
Finally, Monday Night Football games. Cleveland, this is a big game for Cleveland. The city of Cleveland doesn't get a lot of standalone NFL games. So when you would coach a Monday Night Football game, Cincinnati, to me, has kind of last 3 weeks has kind of found themselves. The O-line, it was new with Burrow. But this is a division game. So talk about, you've had a few of these. Division game, you're on the road, or somebody goes, it's Monday Night Football. Do they have a playoff feel to them? Do they feel different?
Yeah, I think Monday Night Football does. I mean, is it odd that both of these teams are orange? And we're sitting here. Do you think that had anything to do with these
That's teams a good call.
Playing tonight?
I think you're right.
I have no idea. But anyway, when you play on prime time, although there are more primetime games, it used to be when you played Monday night, that was
your peers are all watching.
That was we got the halftime. We didn't get any halftime highlights on Sunday when we were kids. You got everything in that halftime segment on Monday Night Football.
Right.
All right. We have Sunday Night Football. We have Thursday Night Football. I think it means a lot, though, when you play Monday Night Football. And I think when you're playing a night game on national TV.
What do you tell the guys?
Yeah, I think, look, and I would say this. You have a team that's kind of on a roll, and you have another team that's backs up against, they've got it. This is a big spot for Cleveland.
2-5. They got to.
This is a big spot for Cleveland.
Yeah.
Because, so I think, I expect to see them play well.
Yeah, so do I. It is interesting about the desperation. Sometimes those are the worst teams to play.
There's no question. And you can see it. Look, I don't pay attention to how they do spreads or whatever, but you can see it in the lines. They factor in a lot of different things, home and away, injury. But when you play someone in our business is very important.
Yeah. Sean Payton, it's great to see you as old. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. We'll see plenty of orange tonight, huh?
It's a big Halloween town.
New Orleans is, yeah, absolutely.
Well, no, not New Orleans, where you're hanging around now.
Oh, really? I've got to go get candy.
Oh, believe me.
And just I'm not going to be the one that turns the light off and just, acts like I'm not home and in the basement of the house is watching Monday Night Football.
Perfect. Sean, great seeing you again, Coach.
Good seeing you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.